What happens after we die? Would you really like to know? Today I'm going to be talking about death. But I'll be talking about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and a movie called Jacob's Ladder, and the Silent Hill franchise. That sounds a little overwhelming, but stick with me and you'll understand why I'm talking about all of these three things. And just as a trigger warning, this might be very sensitive as it is dealing with death. And also, if you never watched the movie Jacob's Ladder or played any of the Silent Hill games in the franchise or watched the movies, this may be a spoiler. So anyway, let me explain. So, I've always been interested in Silent Hill since I was like 11 years old when the first movie came out. The game is really not for everybody, like not everybody likes it. It's a little bit challenging, maybe too scary for some people, but at the same time, there is something very compelling about it. And so with any really good piece of like content material, there has to be like a really great influence on that. At least that's what I've noticed. So I naturally wanted to know like what influenced Silent Hill. So one of the major influences of the franchise is a movie called Jacob's Ladder. And I watched this movie for the very first time the other day. And I definitely could see the influences of like the setting into the franchise. And I felt it was really interesting because the game really definitely does capture the essence of that movie. So Jacob's Ladder is like a 90s film, and it follows a man called Jacob Singer, who's a Vietnam War veteran. And so when he comes back, it seems like he's really struggling with PTSD. He had a divorce from his wife. One of his kids died. Just like really crazy life for this guy. But he starts having these hallucinations that like make him feel like he doesn't know what's reality. But the fascinating thing about these hallucinations is that he keeps waking up like either back with his lover or waking up and being with his wife again, and his kid is alive. So you really don't know like which part of this is real. Is he just imagining being back with his wife? Is he really with the lover? He's even really back from Vietnam because he keeps having flashbacks from Vietnam. So then, spoiler alert, we find out that he's actually dead. And these hallucinations that he's having are like memories that are keeping him in a liminal state between death and life. And so again, if you're familiar with the Silent Hill franchise, that's basically what happens in the video games and in the movies of people, or the characters, like the main characters are going to the town and kind of dealing through their own like personal hell. So how does the Tibetan Book of the Dead relate to all of this? So the Tibetan Book of the Dead is called the Bardo Thodol, and it's based in Buddhist teachings. And Buddhism focuses a lot on reincarnation. So through the monk's guidance, it helps the soul to not get distracted and to focus on getting to the next part of the afterlife. So there's a part of the afterlife where the soul reaches a point where they meet these beings that are basically reflections of themselves. They look like they're higher beings, like they're full of light, and they seem like they're kind of reflecting back the good parts of the soul. And then if the soul still has like some unfinished business per se, or just some like dark maybe memories about things in the past that had happened, then like dark entities might form and like reflect back at them and remind them of those things that they've been through. And depending on the guidance and how strongly this soul is connected to the lighter part of themselves is whether they will be reincarnated or not. So if the soul chooses the light, then they get to go on to the next part, or maybe like be in nirvana per se. But if the soul clings on to the torment, then it will, I guess the heaviness of the torment will lead them back into reincarnation to relive another life and forget everything that they had went through in the past life and even in the afterlife experience. So again, I'll like bring back up, Jacob Singer in Jacob's Ladder. He was in like a spot in between that. And so like the movie itself is like kind of reflecting the Book of the Dead in those parts where he's kind of like a lost soul. Like he's kind of like, he's dead, but he's like still attached to his old memories. So in the end, he chooses to go with the light and to move on instead of like live another life and be reincarnated. And even connecting another piece of religious text or religious literature from the Bible, the like name of the movie itself, Jacob's Ladder, comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 28, verses 10 through 19. And in that story, Jacob the patriarch has a dream of seeing a ladder from earth to heaven where like angels are ascending and descending from it. So it gives you this idea of like just kind of a in-between place of reality and spirituality. Not saying that spirituality is not real, because it also depends on your perspective. There are many cultures around the world that like have their own interpretations of what happens after we die. And the topic of death is grim as it is, has always interested me because I'm like, well, what is real and what's not real? Is spirituality real to the point where we should focus on it? Is it something that we live by to make sense of the world around us? Do we need it, or can we move on as a race without it? And I wanted to explore more of these themes on this page at some point, and I definitely will be talking more about this at later times. But I will end up with saying that whatever you believe in, it seems like whatever religious text or wherever you come from, a lot of them always point to living a good life while you're here. Treating others with respect and kindness, and trying to live the best life that you can, because it's like a testing ground to something higher. And what's interesting is that I just randomly started watching the movie. I wanted to watch the movie for a while now, but then after watching the movie, it was just like something else that came up was the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It wasn't like I was really looking for that either, or thought that there was some type of influence from the Tibetan Book of the Dead for this film. But I felt within me to look more into it, and then once I did, I was like, oh, like this actually influenced that movie, and then the movie influenced Silent Hill. You always gotta connect them dots. But anyway, thank you for watching if you've made it with me this far. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and this page a follow. I try to post when I can and where I can. Right now I'm in a parking garage. The struggle is real, but I'm out here. I really appreciate you for watching, and I hope this video connected with you in some type of way. I'm Sidney, and this is A for Anthro, and thank you for watching.